Estoliana, Zacharias. Never were there two souls less holy than that duo. They founded the most successful cult in the history of the world. 2,600 years later, their hocus-pocus promises and ridiculous edicts continue to thrive and deceive hard-working individuals, cheating them of their free will and potential in the modern world. Quincy Lucellus Amador.
Meredith zipped her jacket up to her chin and looked out over the stormy waters of the Mediterranean. She couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation, the peculiar crossroads in her life that brought her here. She was studying history, to avoid living life, her mother always said, and had stumbled upon a mysterious island with two names in the oldest history books. Its name was either Pequeño or Estolia. Satellite imagery suggested an island of considerable size, yet all historical records depicted it as smaller than Ibiza to the west. Meredith leaned toward trusting the satellite data, despite its frustrating blur. When she'd contacted Google directly, they'd informed her that permission for higher resolution images had been specifically denied by the authorities of Estolia. In her research, she felt like Alice in Wonderland, following a peculiar trail of the most esoteric clues, but nothing seemed to add up. And then she had stumbled on an old, outdated but still valid grant for an unbelievable amount of $5 million for research into the history, ecology, economy, and religion of Estolia. She sent an inquiry to the British law firm that had annexed the law firm that had annexed the original law firm. The grant itself was nearly 112 years old and, strangest of all, had been written in San Francisco shortly after the devastating 1906 earthquake. She received a response, offering an itemized list of tasks she needed to accomplish. The most peculiar requirement, however, was that she must seek out a breeder of Estolian horses, purchase one, and as stipulated by the grant's language, use no other form of transport on the island nation of Estolia. To receive the grant, she'd need to petition for a visa, take the twice-per-month ferry from Mallorca with the horse, and secure permission to stay in the palace. Proof of obtaining the visa, palace lodging, and the Estolian mount would be required. A handwritten note had been the most curious. It said,
"It would be a tremendous relief to our offices if you could obtain these necessary items. We can state that you will receive the grant if you are successful. We did further research and determined that in the interests of expediting your actions, we could forward you the attached sum, so long as you include an itemized accounting demonstrating that all monies were used in pursuit of the necessary permissions. We also require that you send us a status report within 90 days of cashing the enclosed check."
The check was for $15,000. A post-it note affixed to the check suggested that she traveled to the Zakarian stables just outside of Barcelona and asked to speak with the owner, Sebastiani Zakarian, or with the manager of the stable, Justice Albans, about obtaining an Estolian. It took 18 days before she could fly out to Spain, and when she did, she was excited by the correspondence she had. The manager of the stable was very cordial to her and suggested that she stay at a nearby hotel. She was glad that they were able to accommodate her, but she was also nervous about the coming interview. Everything she learned about the horses and the ranch told her that even though they had horses for sale, they might be unwilling to sell her any despite the money she had. After another couple of minutes staring out at the stormy sea, she turned around and went back into the hotel. She had to dress the part, but she had no idea what that meant. She donned a pair of jeans with a flowing blouse. When she was ready, she went down to the lobby and waited for the taxi she ordered. Once the taxi reached the large gates, she stared at the horses in the fields on either side of the long, impressive drive leading to the main buildings. They were gorgeous, pregnant mares, majestic stallions. She found herself hoping that she would be able to become the owner of one of these beautiful animals. The driver stopped and opened the door for her. With a wink, he took the money she offered and promised to return to get her if she texted him. Taking a deep breath, she turned away from the taxi and saw that a couple of men were just opening the door and stepping out.
"Meredith Palmer?"
the shorter man inquired. She nodded.
"I'm Meredith Palmer."
She smiled and stepped forward. A tall man stood next to a shorter, much older man, and when she climbed the steps, the shorter man turned to the taller and said,
Darin, I should like to introduce you to a new client. This is Meredith Palmer. Meredith, this is one of my cousins, Antiochus Kedarin Zacharian. He goes by the name of Darin.
She extended her hand to the man she was introduced to.
Please call me Mary.
She flushed when he lifted her hand to his lips and kissed the backside.
It is indeed a pleasure to meet you, Mary. I would also be honoured if you would call me Darin. You have become acquainted with my cousin Justice?
She nodded.
I know that you are interested in an Estolian.
Justice said to her, gesturing for her to descend the stairs and then leading her around the building.
I was a little bit confused by your correspondence. You were not exactly clear on your purposes. Were you interested in breeding them, or were you looking for a steed for eventing or for dressage?
She stopped and looked from the short to the tall man and flushed.
I am embarrassed to admit it, but I've actually never been on a horse in my life. I have always been fascinated by horses and was crazy for them as a child, but I never had the chance to be near one. I am now trying to do some research on one of the island nations in the Mediterranean, and I discovered that there is a grant that is available that will fund my research entirely. However, it has the most peculiar conditions. One of them is that I obtain an Estolian. Clearly, I'd have to learn to ride as well, though I've heard that in certain circumstances, with the right mount, they are a dream to ride, even for a rank novice like myself.
Both men were staring at her in surprise.
You have never been on a horse, and yet you are considering buying an Estolian? Even the least expensive ones are extraordinarily expensive.
Justice said.
I was given your name and forwarded $15,000 to use as a down payment. I have no time limits. Is it not possible you might have a mount for me?
Justice looked very negative, shaking his head. Before he could say anything, the other man said,
It is only fair to show her those horses who have not yet been sold, Justice, is it not?
The two men looked at each other for some time, as if some message was passing between them. Finally, he nodded. Turning to her, he said,
Selling an Estolian is more than exchanging money for an animal. The horse must like the new owner. If any of our horses looks like it is interested in you as a rider, then we will proceed from there.
Justice gestured for them to continue. In about 5 minutes, they approached a large building. Inside, an indoor arena opened before her.
A whisper on the ocean breeze, a secret held by ancient seas, two names upon